Today's project is a black and white television from the mid-1970s. I picked up this TV from a man in Canada. Where? Okay. I really like the styling of these. It's very futuristic, or trying to be futuristic, and it's got one or two things hiding, and you'll see what they are because I'm going to spoil the surprise. But first, let's take a look around. This swivels. There's a channel selector for VHF, channels 2 to 13, and UHF channel selector from channels 14 through 83. On the side, volume, brightness, and contrast. On the other side, nothing. Here is a broken antenna, and that's one of the things I'm going to want to do something with, because that's a disaster. Commonly used controls on black and white TVs: vertical size or height, same thing, vertical linearity, vertical hold, and horizontal hold. Here are the inputs for the VHF and UHF tuners, and a switch for internal and external antenna. This says TV and charger, and this gives away one of its secrets. The secret is that this is actually a portable television. There's a battery compartment for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 D cells, plus a switch inside for rechargeable and non-rechargeable batteries. Charging a non-rechargeable battery ends in battery soup. And while we're on the side, there's an earphone jack and the speaker. And if I were carrying it full of batteries, especially alkaline batteries, it would weigh quite a bit. But that's okay, because it has a carry handle. So I can carry it around and watch TV on the go. I believe it works. The former owner told me that it worked. What it looks like it really needs, other than the antenna being replaced, there's nothing there to repair, is a really serious cleaning, which means it will have to be stripped entirely. I don't know if you can see it. Besides being dirty inside, the plastic cover is scratched. I think it looks worse in person than it does on the camera. So let's test it. You see a rolling picture? There is no rolling picture. That's just artifact of how cameras work with TVs. Let's put a video signal into it and see what it does.
Rock is on top of you. Come on now, speak the hell up. You better make it snappy, Uni.
I don't know what these lines are. I don't think that's anything to do with the set. I think that's to do with the video source. Those lines appear and then they disappear. You see, they're gone now. Decent picture. I think the picture tube shows some signs of wear because it's not as bright as it could be, but there are no signs of burn-in. I think it's a set worth repairing, so let's take it apart. The nice thing about electronics technology of this era is that it's all repairable. Schematics are generally available, and there are no proprietary screws or tools needed for most of it. It is a pleasure to work on. Okay, we can get rid of the battery compartment, and by the way, there's no corrosion in here at all. It looks like it was never used. I took apart one of these in a video, I guess it was about 2 or 3 years ago, with an orange one of these. And when this is all done, it's going to take its place next to my orange one. Unfortunately, it did not come in many different colors. As far as I can tell, it only came in white and orange. Some TVs came in a whole variety of colors, but this was not one of them. There you go. I don't know what I'm going to do with that antenna. The inside of the set is dusty, and I'll have to wipe this out. That's not a big issue. Look at that. Last minute changes to the TV design. 1, 2, 3 capacitors, 1, 2 resistors, and what looks like an inductor. And I will need to remove the earphone jack. And there's always the spanner wrench. These 2 screws here and these 2 screws here. Note that there is a disc capacitor that connects from the chassis to the mount for the front controls. It will need to be removed and later returned. Okay. I don't know how much slack there is on the picture tube socket. So I'm going to remove the switch and ease off that picture tube socket. Yeah, it's off. That will still leave the deflection yoke on the picture tube and the high voltage anode connector. Before I touch that high voltage anode socket, right over here, let me see if I can get closer. Before I touch that, I need to make sure it's discharged. Since we were just using the TV a few moments ago, it could have 7,000 or 8,000 volts on it, and I would rather not have 7,000 or 8,000 volts on me. So I need an alligator clip and a screwdriver. If you have never done this kind of thing before, you need an alligator clip to find ground, and you need an insulated screwdriver. I did a quick video on how to do this. You might want to watch it. You have to get in underneath the suction cup and touch. That's what the high voltage anode connector looks like underneath the suction cup. You've got to get those 2 hooks pushed together. Many TVs have a plug-in yoke, so you can remove the CRT without having to take off the yoke. But this one does not seem to have any provisions, any quick disconnect. This evacuation nipple is extremely fragile. Breaking that will total the picture tube. Be very careful around that. I want to see if that socket would have reached. There's about that much slack on the CRT socket that you could get the picture tube almost out this far. To separate it, it will be necessary to take off the deflection yoke. Before I go any further, I'm going to mark it. I don't need to say, when you put it back on, don't over-tighten it. There are some positioning magnets here on the yoke. You don't want to shift them if you can avoid it. I suspect it'll be easier to get it on after I've cleaned it up. That is a narrow neck. Wow. Gently is the name of the game here. All this rough material here from the tape is causing the fight, and that will have to be cleaned off before I can get the yoke on again. There's a grounding wire here that connects the chassis. I can't emphasize enough how fragile the neck and evacuation nipple is. Avoid anything coming near it, honestly. The next step is to take out the 4 screws that hold the CRT into the cabinet. There's the picture tube, lonely by itself now. Here's the front of the case. This clear shield is not meant to come off. It's been melted on, so it should not come out, even though it was constructed as a separate piece. No big surprise. The handle mechanisms have what looks like some sort of ring, but I'm not sure I want to remove it, only because I'm afraid I might not be able to get it back in again. There is dust in here. I don't know if you can see, but there is dust in there. So it really does need to be cleaned. There's no way that I would try to work on this with the CRT still attached. No possible way. This will have to be lubricated with grease or something. Desperately needs cleaning. Well, let me take this down to the wash basin to make this cleaner. This piece doesn't have much in it. I'll leave the antenna in for now. A few gallons of water later. This washed up quite nicely. Not perfect, but better than it was before. I don't know what adhesive was used here. I'm hoping it will soften with some heat. So I'm going to try heat. My plan, I don't know whether I'll have to change it, is to use an epoxy to fill this gap, but leave a hole for the new antenna. I won't be able to find an exact fit. This one has a big stud at the bottom. I haven't seen any antennas like that, and I don't have any antennas like that. And for the front, when it dries, the plan is to use Novus, which is a very fine polishing abrasive. Heating up the antenna, or what was left of it, this is the whole thing that was left, softened whatever brownish colored material was. It separated from the metal and eventually separated from the plastic. And I could scrape it away. Looks a little bit better. Slightly distorted by the heat, but I can live with that compared to the way it looked before. I'm going to get a lint-free cloth and apply moderate force with some Novus number 2, and then clean it up afterwards with another lint-free cloth with Novus number 1. See if I can improve this a bit. I think so. Well, it didn't take out everything, certainly not that, but it is certainly over here much more presentable. Took out the small stuff. I can live with it. When I was putting it back together, I found it easier to take off this panel so you can see what's happening with the CRT neck, because that's sort of critical. And also to put in the control assembly first, the 2 screws, because you will not get access to that screw and that screw easily afterwards. It's mostly back together. This is a fairly tricky reassembly, not in that there are parts that don't want to fit, but getting screws to go in when there's really no place to put your fingers, and to get the CRT in so that it doesn't have any chance of getting damaged, and so on. So where we are now, I have to put a little bit of grease on the mechanism over there on both sides so that the handle works smoothly. I still have to deal with the case. I'm waiting for the articulated antenna to arrive. The antenna is expected tomorrow, so by the time you see this, 24 hours will have passed. I use Lubriplate number 105. It seems to work really well, doesn't dry out, doesn't run, and does a good job of lubricating. The antenna finally arrived. It's got this hinge in it that makes it perfect for this TV. Let me show you what I have in mind. Very much like the original. So the plan is to get it sticking out about this far. Yes, that means that the screw may or may not be accessible. So I'll just solder a wire to that. Try and make it level like that. That could be passed off as an original antenna. Not that I'm trying to do that, but it will at least look reasonable. If you're not familiar with this two-part epoxy putty, it comes in a roll, something like a long Twinkie. You mash it together until it's one color, and you have about 15 minutes maximum before it becomes hard as a rock. But until then, it's like a stiff plasticine. It's really wonderful stuff. I've used it in a lot of projects. I mixed up about the volume of maybe a marble. I had 10 minutes to form it before it began to start hardening, and it's already very hard. I can't do very much to it now. Not absolutely perfect, but not bad. Let me show you the other side. Looks like a piece of gum, but it's hard. Hard like a rock. And it's affixed to the inside of the case. You may recall the felt rings that I found inside the TV. They actually belong here and here. They prevent the case from being marked up by any friction with the fine-tuning knob or the UHF knob as they turn. And there you have it. Sharp TV 3S-111 from the 70s with its twin. And the antenna is believable. But yes, there they are. Lovely. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video from Mr. Brown's Basement. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Mr. Brown's Basement for more interesting and unusual videos. And as always, thank you for watching.